If it's got a lot of juice, maybe
should be fine. I'll turn the. Feels like it's staying relatively cool now that it's on the ice pack.
Okay, here we go. We're going live. By the way, I think the delay is a little bit longer than I anticipated.
I think it should be fine.
Okay. We are lives.
Yes.
All right. Hello, people, beautiful people in the chat. Let's let it fill in for a few minutes, and we'll just shoot the shit. And in about 5 minutes, I'll do like an intro for you and talk about what our goals for the day are.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. So we're live. Tombola, welcome to the stream. We got Big John Irizarry here today.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the phone is cooking. We've got an extreme setup here. We're taking YouTube live to the next level, guys.
It's literally the next level.
Yep. We want high production quality. We want entertainment. We want it all. Wonder if Vegan Gains appears and spurgs about debating again. Vegan Gains, I don't think he's been to my channel, has he? Or did he come in Bobby's channel with Jonathan Irizarry?
Yeah, he's just obsessed with Bobby right now.
Is he?
He really, really wants him to get on, man.
Well, Bobby's told him that he's down.
Yeah.
What's up, Sarah? How you doing, girl? We're just going to wait for people to kind of cruise in here because I've made a bunch of thumbnails confusing the shit out of everybody on the internet. So we're going to let that die out, and we're already pretty much set up. Hey, thank you, Random Truth. You guys know who Jonathan Irizarry is? I hope you guys do. He's an extremely valuable asset to this carnivore, vegan, bodybuilding, high-performance community. This is an actual athlete, an actual performer.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Is your body that thick everywhere? Take your best guess.
Right.
Let's see here. Yeah, eat that chicken. Get that chicken in. Have you?
Liver is good.
Just real quick, have you been coaching carnivore clients at all?
Have I personally coached any carnivore, just all-out carnivore clients? No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess you can say the closest would be just typical bodybuilders, right? So
yeah, pretty close.
Bodybuilders are going to eat a meat-based diet with, of course, added carbohydrates into it. But those are going to obviously go off performance and just total caloric intake.
Mm-hmm. All right, so.
But no one strictly carnivore. I mean, I think I would probably go about it myself personally before I can sit there and really work with someone one-on-one. I guess another way for me to go about it as well would be the way you're doing it, right? So you're taking on clients, you're not charging them.
Yeah.
And because that's a good way to learn.
Yep, exactly. I have been literally experimenting on people for free behind the scenes via chat, via video chat, straight up yo, take them as they come. And I had people just bombarding me for a few days. And honestly, not everybody gets immediate, insane, just life-altering results. Some people are having to go through a little bit of an adaptation period, and it is what it is. I think that's the journey of health and fitness. You're not going to get fit overnight. You're not going to get healthy overnight, especially if it took you a long time to get to that point of lack of fitness and unhealthiness.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
An actual athlete, yes. He filled it in for you there, Sarah. Definitely follow this guy. He's already got a big channel. He's already got a big following. You've been a professional bodybuilder for how many years?
So I've been competing in the bodybuilding realm since I was 16 years old. So this is going to be what? I'm 29 now. I'll be 30 at the end of August. So roughly 14 years.
So before you were 18, you're already competing at a high level bodybuilding, if not professionally.
Yeah. So actually, do I have a professional, I guess, quality physique? I would say yes. I haven't necessarily reached my professional status quite yet.
Okay.
But I've won prestigious shows. Yeah, I've won the teen nationals. I won my class at least. It was actually a very heated kind of debate that particular year that I competed, because the guy that initially had beat me in my class was 20, so he was competing over age. And then of course they stripped him of the title, gave me the title, but I wasn't able to basically win the overall on stage on that day. It was it was like a next day thing. So it actually made me want to go back and do the collegiate nationals, which is basically for collegiate college athletes, and I won that one, which is a pretty prestigious title at 21. And that
was a bodybuilding show.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So usually people that win the collegiate nationals tend to go on and obviously become pretty decent pros. There's quite like Brandon Curry, for example, won maybe a couple years prior to me, and he just won the Arnold, Columbus, Ohio.
So competing against like really high caliber people in your day, like you're going against tough competition.
Exactly.
And still competing right there with them.
Right. So I've placed top 3 multiple times at professional, like pro qualifiers. I've kind of it's literally missing the pro card by a single point, pretty much. Yeah. So it's happened multiple times. Okay.
So I think this is a good time, guys. This is Jonathan Irizarry. Like I said, he is I would call him he's making a living doing bodybuilding / coaching.
Right.
And that's accurate to say. He's competed in high-level bodybuilding competitions. Obviously, an insanely massive, powerful man. This is not a physique that you walk into your gym at 24 Hour Fitness, LA Fitness, and you're going to see a guy that looks like this every day. This is a real deal bodybuilding athlete. And he was a previous vegan for about a year, right?
Almost 2 years, man. 21
Almost
months.
2 years. And I remember when you went vegan, and I love like reminiscing on the times that, because we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is going to be, I guess, kind of discussion / interview format, because I am also very interested in you, and this is our first time ever speaking with voice or anything like that. So it's going to be kind of cool. We're going to be uncovering some information about each other live. And if there's anything else you want to add to let the people know to preface, and then we can just kind of get into discussion.
You basically gave a brief overview of who I am. So I've been involved in the fitness industry essentially for quite some time. Like Drew had mentioned, I've been doing coaching for the last 10 years. So that's essentially how I make my living. I just coach athletes, whether they're competing in bodybuilding, whether they're just general health, people just looking to get better health, better mindsets towards, their own life in general. You know what I mean? Like just building a better lifestyle as a whole, through all facets of nutrition as well. So it's not just strictly my way. I typically run through exactly how things, because I also have vegan clients myself as well. And, I'm not one to try to sit there and convince anyone to do anything. If they want to continue to eat that particular way, then I do what's best with that. So, so it's kind of, what I've been into, and that's what my channel has been surrounded by over the last like six or so years.
Okay. Awesome. I do want to say, guys, the overall goal of this chat today is we're going to have some fun. Hopefully we're going to pull everything out of our boy Jonathan over here today. We're going to get deep in some topics. We may be a little bit abrasive in certain parts. We're just going to let it flow. All right. Today's the bonus stream. You're at work. Me and Jonathan are chilling. We're content producers. We're going to make this fun. We want some chat interaction. We're also going to potentially do something fun later on. We got something in store for you that's special. Not been done before on any live streams that I know of.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be sick.
And I've got some questions for him, and we're going to go from there. So I want to start off with something very generic, because I actually genuinely want to know this. What made you go vegan in the first place? Because you're like the opposite anti-vegan,
right? Total
as a freaking bodybuilder. Like there's got to be nobody, and also you went high fruit based right off the bat, right. nearly raw for a while. I remember I was like tuning into your channel for a bit doing when you were doing that, and I was kind of on the way out, so it was a little bit of a phase shift there, but I just couldn't believe that you would even attempt that. And I don't know what possessed you to even attempt that.
Oh man.
So what were you thinking? What the hell were you thinking?
All right, man. So this is how it all started. I initially, I'd kind of been, I don't know, I felt like this is the beginning of the journey. I was eating a little bit bad, I guess you can say. I'd been introduced to In-N-Out. This is when In-N-Out first came to Texas. So I'd eaten, there a few times, and I was like, fuck, it was becoming a habit. So I'm like, you know what, Jonathan, cut back on all the bullshit food, cleaned it up. So I was like, you know what, let me just try to do meatless for like a month. Like that was the goal. It's like, I'm going to go without meat for a month and see, and just kind of study it, see the reaction, how my body would essentially go with, and kind of how I felt. So anyways, 10 days into it, I had a vegan friend of mine that had contacted me through Instagram, and he was like, bruh, I see what you're doing. Let's get together and go for a workout. So I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, after the workout, we'll go hit up this vegan spot. I'm like, fair enough, man. I haven't had a vegan spot. I haven't had any vegan food actually ever. So give it a try. No big deal. So we get this workout on. We're conversing, having a good talk and whatnot. Him and his girlfriend were there. And then we go and have, it was at a raw vegan restaurant in Dallas called Be Raw. This is the first time I've ever heard of raw veganism. So this is where you asked me why I decided to go straight into the raw, because I go to this raw vegan restaurant and that's what turned me onto it. So it's gourmet raw, right? So it's going to be high fat. There's definitely going to be a lot of flavor added to it and whatnot. So it was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It was good for what it was. So that's how I was introduced to raw veganism. And
vegan restaurants are always amazing. Like,
right.
The food doesn't taste bad. That's not the thing. But sorry to cut you off, but you wanted to go meatless Monday. Or sorry, not meatless Monday, meatless month.
Right.
Why did you want to do that? What made you want to do that?
Well, man, it was just because like I felt at that time like I was probably consuming too much meat. Like at least that's how I felt, right? Because I was just, I was eating fucking In-N-Out and stuff. This is new to me, man. I hadn't, prior to me going to In-N-Out, within those last few months prior to that, I hadn't eaten fast food at any place since I was 17 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, like I built that habit in a way, and I was just like, fuck, I got to get away from this, get back to, cleaner eating. So what's the best way to do it? That was the obvious
solution, was like, I'm going too deep in the junk food or In-N-Out and all this bullshit. So let me cut it out. Let me go not eat meat at all. All right.
Right. So I was just like, I'll do egg whites and, maybe, some whey protein, because I still had whey. I was still doing Greek yogurt. So it was just it was essentially vegetarian. Right. So I was like, I'll just do the vegetarian and just do it for a month, because I wanted to just clean up my diet, period. That was the only thing that was on my mind, was just getting away from the bullshit and then, focusing more on simple foods. So that was the start, man. So, and then this guy, my friend, he hits me up and convinces me to go vegan. He's like, you've already gotten halfway. You might as well go all the way. Go to home base this time, man. Give it a try.
And he was a bodybuilder already.
Well, he lifts. He wasn't necessarily a bodybuilder.
Does he look like he lifts?
I mean, kind of like he's, he gets in and out of shape,
right.
He's the typical vegan, man. Like sometimes he's in shape, sometimes he's fat as fuck.
Yeah.
But cool dude. His wife, on the other hand, though, is like in miraculous, bro. She fucking stays in top shape.
Yeah.
And she's pretty much raw for the most part. So she does like raw till 4 kind of. But she looks phenomenal. So anyways, yeah, so that was what happened, man. And then they turned me on to Dr. Robert Morse, right? So I was reading his book, and also 80-10-10, man. 80-10-10 was the other book. And yeah, so it was just like I'm reading 80-10-10, and I'm like, fuck, dude, like this seems like the raw diet, and then it's like, of course, moderate protein. And then I'm looking up different lectures and stuff from some of these vegan doctors. And, they're essentially telling me the same thing, that the high protein diet is, unnecessary. You can still build muscle on a lower protein diet. I was like, man, I've never seen this perspective before. I might as well give it a try, and test it out. So that's why I decided to run straight into the raw vegan way, the 80-10-10 perspective. Right. So, and, initially I felt fine, because it was like, I was able to not bring in so many insoluble fibers into my diet. My body processed the fruits pretty well. So I was actually talking to this PhD, a nutrition PhD, and he was telling me how And this completely makes sense how, people from different regions of the world have essentially adapted to that particular style of where they essentially are from, right? So let's say people in Asia, they have like in their genes, it allows them to essentially process the protein and basically extrapolate that protein from the rice better than any other people from, like, let's say from Scandinavia, right? So
did he say how long that process takes, by the way? Like, is there any time frame?
No, not really. But basically, just when they consume the food, their body is able to essentially pull out that nutrients better than another person from a different region. Okay. So, like some people from like the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the Caribbean area, their bodies are able to essentially process the fructose better, right? So that's why I felt like it made sense that whenever I got my blood work done after doing high fruit for so long, my triglyceride levels were like spot on, cholesterol levels were good, like everything was good, man. Like, but I've seen like a person that's like of German origin try fruitarianism, and their triglycerides were like at fucking 300. So it's like, and that was what was happening, is that their body wasn't able to process that fructose very, very well, and it was turning into fat.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had, my family, a big part of them are Cuban, so I have like that Caribbean origin. Beans, rice, fruits, not uncommon in that side of that region.
Right.
And when I first went vegan, like the first couple weeks, I actually dove right into the 80-10-10 as well. That was right before Raw Till 4 even was a thing. Like, they came out with that book, and then I was like, okay, this makes way more sense. And they're going on it too, so I'm going to jump on that. Right. But the first week or two, I was like really trying to make the fruit and the raw work. And of course, I was under eating, and I lost a bunch of power like day one. But I understood, because I already came, like the week before I went vegan, I was the strongest I had ever been in my life, eating meat and stuff like that. Like, I was on a program. I was doing some strength training programs.
I'm sure that's a regretful moment right there.
Well, it was like, oh, this is a new challenge. Like, obviously I just got to eat more. Like, I'm doing something wrong. Everybody puts the blame on themselves, and you're able to sort of plug the holes in the muscle loss quickly, but it's very hard to actually make gains. That's what people don't really understand. So
agreed.
So yeah, that's what I did. I tried the raw first and the high fruit first, and I actually, one of my buddies that I live with was curious about it. He's like, oh, you're doing it, like I want to do it too. Like, he eats all fast food, literally. He does intermittent fasting naturally, but he's a fucking athlete, like perfect physique, 6'2", just like looks like a model. Basically, this dude is just like out of the womb perfect, right? And he's like, he's got abs, and he eats Carl's Jr. and In-N-Out every day, literally.
But it's crazy, man.
He doesn't even know how to cook. So anyways, he goes, all right, this is time for me to step it up. I'm gonna start doing this fruit thing with you. Makes sense. I was like, all right, cool. So I bought all the fruit, because I was like Mr. Go around town and stock my Jeep Grand Cherokee up with boxes of fruit everywhere.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I still buy like 40-pound boxes of bananas, bro.
I get it. And I'm going to be on mangoes this season too. Trust me.
Yeah.
So I bring all this fruit back, and we're just munching on fruit. He tries it for one day. He eats breakfast with me, and he tries eating lunch with me. And this guy never complains about anything, but he literally was in his room with a massive headache, completely laid out. Like, he couldn't do it. And I was like looking at him like, man, you're a bitch, like you're something's wrong with your body. Like, you got to detox that shit out of you or whatever. And he's just like, no way I'm doing this. Like, that was it for him.
See, that's what the fruitarians will tell you. Yes. Oh, it's just detox symptoms. It's like, no big deal.
Yeah. Your dick could fall off, and they're like, hey, detox. You didn't need that dick. It's all good.
How many years do you have to continue to detox? Until
lifetime.
Literally, that's what they'll tell you. It's like, you have to basically get yourself to the point where you're skin and bones. Then you can rebuild again.
And I was there, and I hope, I don't know if you know that part of my story, but I did a 30-day juice fast and a 30-day raw vegan little journey, and I was down to 133 pounds.
Wow.
At 5'10", and I was down there, and it wasn't like I got shredded up. It was like skinny fat at 133. How's that even possible? You do the math. That's the most catabolic diet that you could ever imagine. Just drinking sugar all day, because you're spiking insulin. Your body's used to running on glucose, and it's like, okay, well, I'm out of sugar now. Where am I going to get that sugar? Gluconeogenesis. Let me suck it right out of your muscles, boy. and that's it. You're done. So
that happened to me, man. I did 17 days of just grapes.
Okay, and what happened? Tell us a little in detail if you can.
I was eating 4,000 calories a day of only grapes. And this is when I realized, you know, calories in versus calories out is not necessarily true, because it really truly depends on the source of nutrition that you're consuming. Because with the fruits, with the just grapes alone, like my body, like I got to the point where my body adapted to the carbs very well. And I was like, dude, just flying through it, man. I lost, within the 17 days, I lost 12 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, that's eating 4,000 calories. Normally me eating 4,000 calories, I'm being able to sustain myself relatively well.
Yeah, I would imagine. And this is something else that I noted also when I did the carnivore, like my initial carnivore thing, was I was struggling to maintain weight at high 2,000s calories, about 2,800 to 3,000 calories as a vegan.
Right.
I needed to eat that much food just to maintain my weight. And keep in mind, I'm basically sedentary.
Right.
And I'm only 150 pounds, 5'10" or whatever. So I needed 3,000 just to maintain. But when I went on carnivore, I was eating closer to 2,300, 2,500, fully satisfied for the day, and I wasn't losing weight. I was gaining performance too.
Exactly.
So it's like the amount of nutrition coming in. It's not exactly, yes, calories in, calories out is a nice baseline to understand.
Right.
But depending on the food, depending on the quality of your digestive system, depending on all these other factors, is going to be that plus or minus 200 or 300 calories a day for you, for your exact body.
Right.
And it's something I thought about the other day too, is so funny how, you know, I hate to really just keep throwing the vegans under the bus here, but they're really the only people in the world who say everybody can do this diet. Everybody can do this diet if they do it right. It's
stupid. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right. So they think that I do think that we're all a lot more similar than we think. Our digestive systems are obviously built quite similarly. Like our digestive tracts are going to be within a foot or two of each other. We're going to have all the same body parts usually, as far as, right? But here's what I thought about. If you took an Asian person from the center of China, a black person from the center of Nigeria, a white person from the center of Ireland, and you put them in a room, everybody is going to be able to tell those people apart.
Right.
There's going to be no science to that. Okay, that's the black guy, that's the Irish guy, that's the Chinese guy. So we have these visual cues on the outside of our bodies that are so blatantly obvious, but we don't know the differences on the inside. And imagine if the outside can look like that, so different, then why do we assume that the inside is going to be identical to each other? That's almost impossible. That's irrational, right?
Right.
So I just thought about that.
I guess if we're looking at it from a genetic standpoint, then yeah, like, right. So every turtle is going to be the same, right? Each turtle is essentially going to be relatively similar inside of itself. And then same thing with the lion and so forth. So I get the idea that humans, we're essentially built quite the same, which is why I feel like, there are diets that are particularly going to be like more beneficial across the board. Right. Yeah. But then you just have those certain aspects genetically where I feel within certain regions, then you've essentially, the people have adapted to it. Right. So it's like, let's say, for example, a bird that has traveled from this end of Africa and is essentially their species has made its way to Australia, then they're going to eventually develop characteristics that allow them to succeed and thrive within that particular region. So same thing that's happened to us as human beings is that we've essentially thrived within each region. Like, for example, the Nordic people, right? They tend to have more, of course, meat-based, fish, even dairy. That's a strong point in their diet. And then, of course, like you have people that are more towards the tropics that are going to naturally have more fruits and stuff, included into their diet just because of what that region allows. And, but yeah.
Yeah, that's like a good evolutionary perspective. And that adds some flavor to the conversation. And I do think that makes sense. Like from a common sense perspective, that does make sense. What I'm interested in from like the anthropologists is putting a number to that. Like I want to know how many years it takes to shift the digestion to be able to do this thing. Like for instance, if I took that rice adapted Chinese guy who comes from 100 generations and then I stick him in I don't know, Norway, and now he's got to eat a bunch of dolphin meat and
right.
potatoes. Like, how long is it going to take that guy to adapt? Can he adapt in his lifetime? Is it going to take 5 generations?
Really good question. So apparently genetics, like even now, like our genetics are being changed, you know, even throughout our lifetime. So that's tough, man. Because, you know, I believe in adaptation. I don't necessarily believe in evolution as far as like the evolution theory is involved, like where one species has transformed into another species. Like I've never seen that happen. There are no links. There's a lot of missing links involved, even within science today. So I tend not to agree with that. But I do believe that within the species, you can adapt to whatever it is, what different environments and so forth. Fuck, dude, that's a really good question, though, whether or not it can happen within the particular lifetime or does it happen over spans? So like, let's say, you know, we take in over the next last 12,000 years. Man, I would feel like definitely within maybe 2 to 3 different generations. I feel like that seems pretty ideal.
Yeah, that's a good theory for now. You know, like.
Right.
Your guess is as good as mine on that one. I have no idea. You know, I guess the way that I envision it is like it's maybe dozens or hundreds of generations.
It could.
Like that's my theory about it, because it took so long for us to even get to the point. Like I brought this up yesterday in yesterday's conversation, is that we didn't get the enzyme amylase, which allows us to start digesting starch in our mouth, till like 250 to 400,000 years ago, which is around the time that we started using stone ovens,
right?
To cook for groups of people with like technology. Like we've been harnessing fire for a million, but ovens is a technology.
Well, see
about that time.
See, I'm gonna actually think a little bit opposite, man. Like, because I'm gonna look at like if you actually do a little bit of research in our deep past and in the history of humankind, like. I actually think the history has been told to us backwards, where in the past, when essentially the earth was created, like the people that were there initially were much more intelligent, much smarter than we are today. Okay. So they actually had much higher technological advances and were able to do a lot better things, essentially. I mean, look at like some of the buildings and things that still, like all the stone architecture that's been there. I mean, was created to last for millennia, for as long as time. I mean, you know, the pyramids, for example, are another thing. You know, so I really truly believe, and there's another guy, his name is Brian Forster on YouTube, that talks about these advanced technologies from the past. So I really feel like we've actually devolved in a sense, you know. So like we've come to these points in periods of human, basically are in I don't know, in history, where essentially there's like a restarting point, right? So like things essentially, we eventually just destroy ourselves, and then we basically start back up, but a little bit dumber, you know? And it's like we're trying to like get all that knowledge back up again. This is where we are today. You know, we've reached a point where we're essentially where we can literally look at things, it's literally at our fingertips. You know, who's to say that there hasn't been a point in time in the past that this existed before? You know, I feel like this has.
Yeah, I do find that stuff interesting, and I don't get like too conspiratorial about it, but like it's interesting that these pyramids are out there. We can't recreate those. Like, what's the deal with that? Why can't our modern technology? But that, I think we could go way off in a tangent on that.
Right.
Okay, so
my bad, man.
No, that's great. So I guess I want to shift, or I have a kind of a more specific question regarding your vegan diet. You mentioned that you had good digestion, especially consuming fruit. Was there a point that you didn't have good digestion? Because I remember specifically commenting to you back in the day, and I doubt you remember this, because I was just, you know, a little commenter in the thing. I was like, man, like you're eating. It was when you were doing that video where you were eating like 3,000 or 4,000 calories worth of spaghetti every night or something like that, or like noodles out of that big bowl. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So you were doing that like multiple days in a row, and I was like, what is going on? Like, how are you getting through that? So I want you to Tell me more about that, because you said it digested fine at that time. You responded to me.
Yeah. I remember. I think this was whenever Bobby was making his videos, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I felt fine. Like, just physically, I felt okay, and because I wasn't dealing with any gas or any bloating at all. But it wasn't until my girlfriend essentially brought it up to me and was like, Jonathan, like, you say your digestion's fine, but the toilet is telling me otherwise.
Really? She called you out.
Oh, she called me out heavily, man. Okay, big time.
Interesting. Because usually, the fruitarians, that's their claim to fame, is they say that they've got perfect poops. Their poop doesn't smell. It's like, it's clean. It passes. Well, no babies are harmed.
Okay, so I thought you were talking about like when I was eating the noodles and shit.
Okay, the noodles. Yeah.
Okay. You're okay. Now I know which video you're talking about. It was the fiber noodles. Yeah. So, but when I was doing this, the mainly fruitarian, dude, like my digestion was on it. It was like legit. I was
no
good,
issues
bro.
then. Like even the toilet was good.
No, I would go and literally, bro, I wouldn't have to try. Of course, I'm probably taking like 3 shits a day minimum.
Yeah.
But like, was I having to force anything? Nah, man. It was like literally flowing through me. I can, you can see what you're consuming. So like if I was eating tons of mangoes that day, then I can see literally the mango within the stool.
Wow.
And my body odor and stuff, like it's definitely different. Like I became like, you can like, and again, I'm just being 100% honest. Like my stools, they would smell like fruits, man. It got to a point, if I was consuming mostly fruits, they would start to smell fruity. Yeah.
Well, I want to add to that about the toilet situation, because I lived with multiple fruitarians over the years in Hawaii, and I could say with facts here that I could hear what was going on in that bathroom from the other room. And it's not that way for everybody, because sometimes I'd go in there afterwards to use a bathroom, and there would be, I know you're eating right now, but let's just say that there was some, they left some presents for people even after flushing. Like that, it was just, and it was the color of papaya. It's like, hey, this person's been eating a lot of papaya, I found that kind of weird. Like, it's passing through you so quickly that it's not even fully digesting, and you had that experience too.
Right. There's definitely a feeling of detox out of it, where you're not essentially, excuse me, I have a little bit of food in my mouth, but I wasn't able to get that power like I normally would out of my food. Yeah.
You mean muscular power, like performance
wise, it wasn't resonating to the performance within my realm, which is going to the gym.
Yeah. Let's talk more about that. This is something on my little baby level. I felt that too. And we have some theory about it. Bobby's brought it up with Bart K. They talk about the myelin sheaths, which is the cholesterol laden shells around your cells that connect your brain with your muscles, basically. There's like a chain that goes from your brain to the muscles, and this connection point is this myelin thing created by cholesterol. And of course, in the vegan diet, you're lacking cholesterol.
Right.
So it's interesting that you're kind of lacking the mind-muscle connection from this theory-based standpoint, right?
Big time. And I mean, honestly, if you want to just keep it in layman's terms, that's the best way to put it, is that I did not have that strong mind-to-muscle connection that I would typically have.
And you're a freaking pro bodybuilder doing everything necessary calorie-wise. You're like calculated to a T, obviously. You're not trying to lose any gains.
No, man. I'm just like you, man. I'm typing everything into Chronometer or my Net Diary or MyFitnessPal, these apps that we're tracking food. So we're making sure that we're consuming enough. Whenever I was doing 80-10-10, then I was literally pushing in about 700-800 grams of carbs a day. Which is a lot.
More than me. That was more than me cycling. That tells you that's a lot.
Dude.
So can you describe the feeling? Because I don't want to taint you with the way that I describe it. How do you describe the feeling of working out as a vegan? Like when you're in the gym and you're trying to get the most out of your body.
So there's different levels of this, obviously, because I went through different phases. So initially I started off with the raw phase, doing the 80-10-10.
Very low protein.
Right. And like I would say the first few weeks or so, I was still able to maintain myself relatively well. Like my workouts didn't suffer so bad, but it was like after the 3-week mark, I started to feel a decline. But at this point, like, I guess I was so stuck into it. I was so stuck in that mindset of thinking like, man, I felt good initially. So, that means that I'm always feeling good, right?
Yes.
So like maybe I felt good internally with like my energy and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I was sleeping better at that time.
Yeah. There's like a mood lift. You start consuming a bunch of sugar, you can feel pretty good as long as you have that carb source right next to you, because you go 3 hours, you start to just fall off the cliff. But we're talking about assuming you have that calorie source right next to you,
Yeah, exactly. So that happened. And, it's just like, again, that, like you said, that mind to muscle connection, man, I was starting to basically lose it in a sense where like I wasn't feeling the same way. But, I'm like at that point, I'm pretty much like 100% into the vegan stuff, like, because
like you want it to work.
Right. 100%, dude. You make it feel as if basically like, yeah, like I went about this to make it work, and to show like, can this be possible? It wasn't really the start of it was to say, hey, I want to be vegan. It was more like, I think the vegan diet can work.
Right.
And yeah, so it was like over time, I started to feel, man, maybe, because again, I know how I felt to be a high performance athlete.
Yeah.
So to feel a decline, it's like you almost start to get in denial in a sense. So like I was in denial with myself to saying that I was declining in a way,
and this happened this happened even starting as soon as 3 weeks in, you're saying.
Right.
Especially on the raw.
Exactly. So then later that, like, it was like more like maybe a couple months in, then I'm like, all right, dude, this is clearly not sustainable. Because, I love to eat this way. It made it easy. You're not having to cook anything. I literally didn't bring my pans out of my kitchen for months. And then, but my girlfriend came to visit me because she lives in Denmark. She came to Dallas to come visit and, stay with me and whatnot. And she's an amazing cook, man. So, of course, she's just trying to figure out ways that she can be able to make me happy with food.
And she's not vegan, right? Or she wasn't vegan at that time?
No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't at all. She had basically, when I first met her, she wasn't vegan at all. And then she went vegetarian because I essentially convinced her that meat was bad. Yeah. So, yeah, that was kind of how it was. Yeah. And then, so she went vegetarian. She still ate the eggs. She still ate egg whites and whatnot. But again, she was cooking all vegan meals for me. And yeah, so that's whenever, dude, the digestion problems really started to kick in. And my stomach, like, dude, I'm telling you, man, I would eat a meal literally for 3 to 4 hours. I'm laying in bed. I couldn't move, bro. I was like, I felt intense pain within my gut. Like I couldn't pinpoint it. I'm like, what the fuck is causing this, man? Like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now.
What were the trigger foods at that time?
Dude, like, I mean, cause like, okay, so I was eating like, some of the Boca burgers. So I'm like, I cut that out. Right. And then, so I cut out all the fake meats because, she was like making like some tacos and stuff, keeping it relatively low fat, high protein, moderate carb and whatnot. So like we would eat those and I'm like, okay, no good. Cut that shit out. And then, so I'm like eating more of like whole foods version. So I'm eating beans and lentils and stuff. Still same thing, dude. If I ate raw vegetables, bro, I was completely fucked. So I knew not to eat raw vegetables. And then it just led me back into a more raw diet. So, and then I ended up following my way back into a raw vegan diet again. Eating more fruits. Right. So that's actually the second round was when I did the grapes. So, I don't know if you follow Dr. Robert Morris. If you do,
I'm very familiar with all these health frauds.
So you never know. So basically he pushes the whole grape stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
so
grapes and oranges. Yep.
Right. It's fruits, berries, and melons. So his thing is like, if you really want to fucking clean out, then you go straight with the grapes. So grapes were in season at the time. So I said, why not? I'm going to eat grapes for, I tried to push it for 40 days, but I couldn't make it.
Right. So it's essentially a juice fast because
100%.
Grapes are basically pure liquid.
It's just juice with a fibrous outside, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and what's crazy, dude, is that like the longer I went, the less I was shitting, dude. Like my body was essentially just like it wasn't even fucking, bro. Even the fiber that I was getting out of the skin was just like getting soaked in, man. It was crazy.
Yeah. I had that experience as doing a 30-day juice fast. I was 100% juicing everything, but I was still pooping every day.
Really, man?
Oh yeah, every single day, all 30 days. And they weren't always, they were a fucking mess sometimes. It wasn't cool. But I thought at that time, because John Rose is my juicing mentor, the guy that I followed on YouTube, which I hope to make a video about soon, covering that whole interaction and experience. Very interesting, strange man. But I was real big into the movement of that as well. Like I created a cheat sheet that I released for everybody on Google Documents. Like I was totally part of his movement of getting people to try this juice fast, and I was giving daily logs of my 30 days on his channel, because he would make a video every day and I would go in there and I would give a log every day at the top of his page. So I was like the prodigal disciple of like John Rose's early YouTube career when I found him around 1,500 subscribers. So I'm familiar with this process, and people weren't even believing that I was shitting. I had to literally put up private listed videos after I went to the bathroom. I was like, all right, if you guys really want to know, this is what's up. And I put the link in those videos, and if they wanted to go look at that link, they could. But I wasn't trying to be called out as a fake or a liar or anything like that. I stood by what I said, and I'm 24 days in, and I'm still shitting. But there's a lot more. Man. Well, it's really not though, because they're still going to get some soluble fiber still going to get through your system and make it to the end point, even though you're juicing it. And then bacteria is going to start consuming that like it normally does whenever it's fermenting in your colon. And then what happens is the bacteria builds up its own weight and its own volume. And that's kind of what you're seeing in the toilet. And what John Rose proposes is that if you go long enough, you're going to shit out some sort of like intestinal serpent out of your body. You know those videos where you go in there, you type in like colon cleanse results, and it's like you see a fucking rope
cleanse, all that bullshit, bro. It looks gross.
It's I don't know what's going on there, but I call bullshit on most of that stuff. So this guy asks, what do you think you were shitting out? I think I was shitting out a lot of mucus, because I think that the fibers that I was getting in from the fruit was causing a lot of issues. Right. And it was basically stimulating like IBS-like symptoms. It wasn't always comfortable to actually go to the bathroom, and it wasn't always clean either.
That's weird.
I still got pictures, and I still got videos. So yeah, I know exactly what happened at that time, and I couldn't wait to get back to food either. I know that feeling. You're just like, God, just give me back to some real food.
You know, it's funny. The buddies of mine that essentially got me into the vegan movement, basically thing, they actually hosted their own 30-day juice fast. Bro, I don't know how. Honestly, bro, I don't know how y'all motherfuckers do it, man.
Just it's the curiosity. It's not even like the blind belief, because I don't believe anything until I test it.
Right, I'm exactly like you.
You know, I want to give me the results, and then we'll talk, baby. Because dude, it's just the way that it works. There's so much misinformation, and I'm not just going to believe some guy. Like, yeah, okay, I don't know. Are you familiar with John Rose? Do you know what he looks like and everything?
Yeah, follow his channel, actually. I like to see what he puts out.
So
you know the reason why? It's because fucking Vegan Gains talk so much shit about him. So it made me go look him up.
Right. So you've got this charismatic 63-year-old guy who's got a damn six-pack. Here's and this is something I think we'll agree on. Right. John Rose, he's on a fruit diet, a raw diet, and you look at his physique. So the layperson is going to say, wow, the fruit did that. What I say now is John Rose is a genetic outlier, and he's always looked like that. He's never posted pictures of himself in his 20s or 30s. I bet you that guy has looked like that since high school.
Possibly, yes. I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's like, let's say if I started off doing just fruits and stuff, I guarantee you I would still have an amazing physique.
You'd still be bigger than the average guy in the gym.
Oh, 100%.
Just because of your genetics.
Right.
You know, and this is what people, I want, and that's going to be a nice segue into the next thing, because I had a bit of an argument yesterday with Ted Carr. He's talking about, he brings up Mike Velocity, who's a strength athlete. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
No, I haven't heard of him yet.
So a little background on Mike Velocity. He's a longtime fruitarian. Doesn't look like he lifts. He's 5'6" or so. perfect proportions for strength training, powerlifting competition, basically. And he's like 150 pounds, if I recall, give or take 5. But the dude can bench like 300 pounds, like over double his body weight bench press, over 2 or 3 times his body weight deadlift. Very, very strong numbers. And he trains. It's not like he doesn't train.
Right.
But he's doing it on fruit. And what I say is this guy's genetics allow him to have such a high baseline of strength compared to the average person, and such a high ceiling compared to the average person, that he's doing these large feats of strength despite his diet, his lacking diet, not because of the fruit diet.
All right, I'm curious to see how many calories he actually puts in, because I noticed like when I did the all fruits, man, I had to eat way more.
Yeah. Well, I think he's eating enough to sustain his activities. Like, okay. I think he's I don't think he's just willy-nilly like fasting all the time and he's strong. Like he's eating his fruit to support himself to that extent. But just the fact that he's doing it on 40 grams of protein a day, if that's what he's doing, because to my knowledge, he's not taking any protein powders or anything like that.
Yeah. So if he's eating minimum 3,000, then he's going to at least get about 50 grams of protein from 3,000 calories.
Right.
So, I mean, he has to be eating more than that, though, man. Like, I don't see how that, and he has to be supplementing with some sort of like multi-mineral, some electrolytes, because I noticed that whenever I was doing strictly fruit and drinking water, if I wasn't juicing the celery juice, then that's when I started to cramp a lot, because I was missing a lot of the salts. So I started actually putting salt on the fruits and stuff. Because if not, man, cramping was a huge issue for me on just fruits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's just a little background on him, and people this is another issue that I had with the whole vegan thing, is that they have these genetic outliers that they point to as the god. Right. Hey, John Venus can do it. Hey, Mike Velocity can do it. It's like, okay, but 99% of you can't. So what does that tell you? Like, let's go by the majority figures and let's use a little common sense here. And again, I hate the cop-out of we're all different, everybody's different, but we are all different to at least a small degree. So we need to start acknowledging that.
Agreed.
You know? And the vegans, like I said, we've already blown their theories wide open now, because we've got some of them finally agreeing and acknowledging that the vegan diet cannot be done by every single person. So what's that?
There's too many people that are getting fucked up off of it.
Totally.
To sit here and say that it can 100% happen. Absolutely not.
So this is where I like to go with this. Even if it's 1% of people can't do it, even if it's 1%, then we need to understand that the ethical argument of veganism is already dead right there. Like, you can't have 1 or 3 or 5 or 10% of the population that cannot do a vegan diet, and you can't be sitting there judging them, ridiculing them, saying that they all did it wrong. And there's no way you can ever prove why it didn't work for them. So you just got to let it go. And the vegans, they got to just chill on this. They got to find a new approach, because in my opinion, they're losing respect from the entire world by the way that they're treating the people who are now ex-vegans. The hate that the ex-vegans are getting is showing the true colors and the true bias of the vegan community. And I think it's really disgusting and putting a lot of people off, even though veganism is growing, yes, but they're growing via health-based propaganda, and this health-based information is telling everybody that it can be done. Well, it's not even really pointing to that. It's just what the vegans are spinning it, because the health-based sources are saying, hey, lower red meat, increase fruit and vegetable consumption, and that's going to be healthier for you than whatever you're eating now. Yeah, but most people are eating a sad diet, so it's like, yeah, that is true, right? Like, nobody's really denying that. But then they spin that and they say 100% plant-based. It's the way to go.
Yeah, man. No.
Bullshit.
Nah, man. I mean, because if you want to, again, they like to go through and use the blue zones, right?
Yeah.
As their saving grace, like, hey, these people are eating a plant-based diet, right? But it's not a vegan diet.
Right. And this is kind of new. We've kind of exposed this semi-recently. Like, people, even the vegan opponents were buying that for a while, like, trying to put holes in that. It's like, wait a minute, they're not even eating all vegan, so why are they pointing to these people? You know what I mean?
Right. That's the crazy thing, man. But it's just because they from what I've gathered, is that they want to say if it's 85, 90% of their diet is essentially plants. And then, they're just getting in that 10%. So why can't we just say supplement the nutrients that you would essentially get from the animal foods? And you don't have to eat these foods.
Yes.
Fuck
that
you
is
guys.
their Yeah, I'm with you. Thanks.
Doesn't work.
Let it out. How does it feel? How does it feel to say fuck you guys?
Seriously, man, it does not work. I'm sorry.
It doesn't work yet. And that's their theory, is like, well, we got to keep trying. We owe it to the animals to keep on trying and be the experiments until it does work. It's like, okay, how many billions of dollars are going to be made till we figure that out? And how many of us are going to die off before we figure that out? Like, no, man, that you can't be wasting your most fertile years and your youth trying to be this experiment to save the cows. Like, no, I don't care if that sounds insensitive. That's just what it is.
Yeah, but these cows are going to be eaten no matter what, man. They're still there. They need to go somewhere.
They need to go somewhere.
And I mean, can we sit here and use this like as a way, like could things be done a little bit more efficiently? Sure. And I feel like most people, vegans, non-vegans, are going to agree with that. They're going to agree and say that we could have better practices. The way certain places are doing things are obviously a bit inhumane in a sense. So yeah, could these things be improved? 100%, man. But I actually have a friend that owns like not a dairy farm, but a farm for like steaks and stuff, where they essentially use these animals for food. And I mean, he's shown me videos, and they're grazing, they're chilling, they're doing their thing. It's actually a very nice scene. So it's not like they're always in these feedlots. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. They have certain lots in West Texas where literally, bro, the whole town is meant for this, where all they do is feed these cows, and these cities smell like shit, dude.
Oh, so yeah. We have those here, by the way. I used to live in one, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen that stuff, man, and it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's true. That nobody's denying that stuff, and even myself, I openly eat conventional meat because I have to,
Right.
And that's. But here's the thing: I feel better eating conventional meat than I did at any point of my organic, high-dollar vegan diet. I was spending close to $1,000 a month as a vegan on food,
bro. When I was doing strictly raw, fuck, bro. I was literally going to the grocery store twice a week. I would probably spend anywhere between $80 to $100 each time.
Yeah, and especially for you, I mean, geez, you're pounding in the calories. You're like,
yeah,
and you really notice the quality difference of food. Like, if you're eating that much, like, food has to be good if you're eating 4,000 calories of it a day. You know what I mean? You can't just like squeeze by a little Happy Meal here and there throughout the day if you're just trying to get by.
No.
And that's the other thing I noticed too, is a lot of the vegans who don't have any issues or are thriving or feeling okay, they're not athletes. They're not pushing themselves. They're eating the minimum for the day. They're happy when they eat less for the day. And guess what? That's going to be pro-digestion, because now you're not overloading the pipes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like my theory now is everybody has a certain digestive threshold of how much fiber they can handle. You either can handle 100 grams a day, some people can handle 400 grams a day, like Jackson Foster the other day. I believe him that his digestion is good. Why would he be lying to me? And his stomach's flat when he sits there and he flexes. Okay, right. Cool. Like, yeah, I believe you. But doesn't mean that everybody else can do it. I'm of the impression that barely anybody can do it these days, long term. We're talking a lifetime vegan diet. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to bring up something. We've talked about, the IFBB a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So we're not going to name names here, but is it even possible to be associated with that organization
and be drug free?
Is it even possible to be at that level? Because there are some people out there
that
claim to be drug free.
There are a few. That do exist.
Okay.
But, again, those are going to be some of the genetic outliers.
Right. Well, you got to be a genetic outlier to be at that level anyways, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. But I mean, you have to be like
the freak of the freaks?
Freak of the freaks in order to be able to be at that level and be drug. As a bodybuilder, it's essentially impossible. So, anyone that competes at my level, 100% zero. None.
Correct.
They don't exist. For men's physique, the guys competing at the top, none of them are natural. Zero.
Okay.
You know, if we're not gonna, I mean, to be honest, you might as well just fucking bust the dude's name out, like, because I know Torrey Washington is essentially he's now
That's
an
one of
IFBB
them.
pro.
That's one of
Right.
them.
I looked at his pictures, and this is just me being 100% objective,
Yeah,
and non-biased. But he appears to he started using stuff now,
right.
because I can look at his nipples, and they have a little bit of swelling on them. That is a sign of usage. Period.
Right.
Even if it's just a little bit, if he's just using some sort of orals like Anavar.
Well, those guys are on, and I like your opinion on this, and I actually don't know much about this, but they all work for a Clean Machine, which is a like a culmination of herbs and spices, that special sauce.
Right.
But how effective are those things, and are those things, like, where would you put those over the counter legal enhancers, I guess you could call them? Like, where do those stack up? Because I know some of them are really damn effective. A lot of them get banned over time that
Like
they're so effective.
Like some of the SARMs and stuff. I had a client, man, that used SARMs last year and got some great results.
Okay. Noticeable, like measurable, basically.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally, man. He definitely felt a difference using them. I don't necessarily I don't know much about them, so I don't ever recommend them.
Okay.
You know, anyone using SARMs or anything that's going to be over the counter is essentially taking them at their own accord.
Okay.
At least for me. Like you said, there has been some signs of them actually working. I have some personal experience with a client that has used SARMs and it did work. But I mean, dude, like, I just, the side effects aren't measurable because there's not enough science basically to back them up for me to be comfortable ever saying for me that I would take them, or I would ever recommend anyone to take them.
So this is, just to give you an idea, these guys all rep this stuff. It's $55 a bottle. It's called Clean Machine Cell Block 80. This is what the description is. Cell Block 80 with DM33 is formulated to increase testosterone, decrease unwanted side effects, and promote prostate health all in one. Based on preliminary lab research, Opuntia flower extract inhibited 80% of 5-alpha reductase activity in human prostate tissue. Homogenate. That's a lot of big words. I don't even know what the heck is going on. But long story short, they're saying this stuff increases testosterone naturally. And it's got prickly pear, ashwagandha, stinging nettle, and boron.
So boron does work. It's been proven to work.
Okay.
Ashwagandha has been proven to work. But dude, I just don't think that that's all that they're doing.
Okay.
Like Torrey Washington, like, again, you don't get gyno from using a natural booster.
Correct. Yep, and we've seen that with TJ Dillashaw, if you follow MMA, and he's out there cheating too, and he's busted.
Right.
He just got recently busted.
Right. So it's just a point of whether or not, like, now Torrey doesn't have to test. So, and again, if he knows better, he knows that if he's going to try to compete at that level, then he's going to have that edge, just like everyone else. Everyone's doing it. Same thing with Niemann.
Right.
Do I think he's natural now? Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. But do I think that he could have possibly taken something while he was prepping for a show? Quite possibly.
Right.
Because
I look at his leanness. I look at his bicep, like the size of his bicep, the shape of it, how lean he gets in conjunction with all that. There is no other vegan bodybuilder doing that.
Right.
Not even John Venus or Brian Turner, who have had respective excellent physiques, in my opinion, in their past, for non-professionals anyways. They haven't been able to return to that same form. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not. Well,
that's what I'm saying. It's like Niemann hasn't gotten back to that. Like,
correct.
He's pretty much retired at this point.
Correct.
Like,
okay.
And that's the thing though, man, is that, like, the only person now that's competing is Torrey. Niemann, I don't know when he plans on competing again. The last time I spoke to him about it, he basically said that it wasn't on his mind.
Right.
So, he's traveling right now and doing his thing.
Yeah, he's making money on the vegan circuit. I get it.
Right. Business is good. So why would you need to? Yep. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't allow for, like, anyone to essentially say, yes, it does work. Because even with, or at least at the most optimal level.
So I got,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, so I have no personal experience taking any type of anabolic steroids whatsoever, but it's so funny to me because it's like, I'm in Southern California. I mean, you're near Dallas. There's big cities near you where people got the money, people got the flash, the nightclubs, all that stuff, right? So you got people that really care about aesthetics. anytime you have that, there's going to be people using. There's girls with $10,000 worth of plastic surgery on their face everywhere you look in Orange County. There's guys that are on steroids everywhere you look, pretty much. Like, I've got friends that just want to look good in the club. They just want to be buffed to look good in the club. They're not making any money off of it. And then you've got bodybuilders who are getting paid for this stuff. And people have this weird thing in their head, like, bodybuilders wouldn't use that stuff in these tested federations. Like, no, dude, everybody's looking for the edge. Not everybody, but most of them are looking for the edge because they want to go to the next level. It's just the way that it works.
Even in the tested federations.
Correct.
There's still going to be people that are trying to cheat. You know, in the test federations, they can't test for insulin and growth hormone. So most of the time,
very good knowledge. Interesting.
These are the things that are being used. And then, like, you have also half-life timing, right? So you can run things like Anavar, clenbuterol up until like maybe 10 days out, cut it out, and then if you take a urine test
you'll
at
pass.
the show, then you'll pass, right? So a lot of times these people are essentially using that.
Now I have a question for you, and this isn't covered very well anywhere that I know of. What permanent effects in terms of physique changes do anabolic steroids have on the body? Like, I have a friend that basically was like, you know what? I started out with kind of like he had kind of like the smaller frame that I have, and he's like, he took his first cycle, and he's like, my bones doubled. Like, I became a much thicker, bigger human being, and that musculature, that frame size, stayed with him forever. It was essentially like a permanent fix in a way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So there's like, okay, so like you have somebody like Dave Palumbo, right? So Dave Palumbo, this guy's fucking foot size grew like 6 sizes, bro. So he went from like a size 11 to a size 17.
That guy's he has a genetic issues though, right? Like Palumboism, they call it.
Well, that's because he got so freaking huge. Like because like he was a marathon runner, and back when he was like in university, right? So it wasn't until after he basically said, "Fuck this, I'm not finishing my medical school," because he was going to become a doctor. Got into bodybuilding. And then, like, his goal was to be the biggest, right? So it's like, you know, at that, I guess you could think psychologically, a person that was so damn tiny and skinny, and then just their body's just, he's crazy to the drugs. So the whole Palumboism is a term that was basically deemed because he was like one of the main guys with like the huge guts back then. Yeah.
He was just like one of the first of many as they came through.
Yeah. Because it's just, you know, what happens is that you're consuming so much food at that size, you know, because again, you got to keep in mind, these people were pushing protein like crazy, right? So they're eating 400 to 500 grams of protein a day. And this is from Whole Foods, right? Because protein at that time, protein powder didn't really exist. So they're eating tons of beef and chicken and fish and whatnot. And yeah, so that's where the gut and stuff comes from. It's not necessarily the drugs. Because, I mean, if that were the case, then people like Arnold, Frank Zane, you know, these other guys would have had fucking guts too.
Yeah, they were juicing. They just weren't doing massive amounts of food at the time. They were kind of just eating. Right. Because they weren't going for all-out mass monsters at that point. They were still doing
aesthetics.
Like, aesthetic and size.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And again, this is a beautiful segue to the next thing. If you had, so I often think about this, and I like to play devil's advocate with myself a lot with the vegan diet, because I look back, sometimes we have like rose-colored lenses a bit. I'm like, I kind of call myself out, check myself, like, was it really that bad? Was I really that weak? I look at pictures of myself, I'm like, I looked okay at this point, but like it wasn't going so good. I'm way more consistent now. Like my worst day now is nowhere near my worst day as a vegan. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm always gaining. I'm always getting leaner. Like even when I think I'm slowing down, next day I wake up, more abs in the mirror, you know? Like things are just better. Now, if I had to go back though, I like to play this little game with myself. What exactly would I eat? Knowing what I know now, eating this low fiber, high protein diet, like, is there a way you could devise the vegan diet? We're not talking about like a long-term malnutrition standpoint. Let's just focus on a performance standpoint for now.
Yeah.
What do you think would be an ideal thing that would work for your digestion and something you could actually handle and sustain for a bit and would perform? Let's leave out, you know, the vitamins and the minerals just for a second, because I think that extra complicates things.
I mean, are we talking from a whole food standpoint? Because I mean,
like even whole foods, but I want to include things like tofu. I want to include things like tempeh. You know, all that stuff. Like, what do you think at that point?
I mean, definitely like, yeah. I mean,
because whole foods, like if we're talking strictly whole foods, that shit doesn't work.
Yeah, you're
if you're not taking protein powder, you're fucked.
Right. So I mean, protein powder would definitely be a key because it allows for a low fat, low carb protein source to be available.
Definitely.
So that would be one. Definitely, you know, if you have tofu and tempeh readily available, those would definitely be a staple in the diet. You know, because that allows you to still keep those insoluble fibers relatively low.
Yes.
And then at that point, now you're having to balance out how many fats you can get in with your diet so you don't go overboard. Because for me specifically, man, I do pretty well on a relatively lower fat diet, and this goes even now. You know, like now that I'm still eating more animal foods in my diet, I keep it between no more than 50 to 60 grams a day. That's just
interesting.
Right. It just works well for me. Now, of course, there's going to be days that I will consume way more. Like if I have a cheat day or a cheat meal, then, you know, you're getting fucking, 50, 60 grams of fat.
Well, I do want to, I think there's some nuance to this as well, because you're probably eating, if I'm guessing, 5-6 times a day.
For me, no.
No.
Right now, I'm eating 5 meals a day. But like for the most part, dude, like if I'm controlling my own nutrition, like right now I have a friend of mine that's helping me with my diet because I just don't want to think about it right now. But like before this, you know, I was literally doing 2 meals a day, dude, 2 to 3 meals a day. I was doing intermittent fasting protocol.
That's what I like too, and I have some little notes about that as well. But when we're talking about 5 meals a day,
yeah,
I think that does work better with carbs because you're actually
definitely
getting those carbs. You know, you come off the carbs, you get more carbs. You know what I mean? You got a nice roller coaster going, but at least you're getting more meals in. Whereas if you try and eat like one big meal in the morning, or let's say you're doing 2 meals a day or something like that, and you're eating carbs, like I feel like people are crashing into their next meal pretty hard.
True. Yeah, when you have a lot of carbs involved, then you have to be able to separate it.
Yeah. You got to be able to keep getting it in, keep trickling in those carbs.
Right, because it just keeps those insulin levels stable.
Right, and they're pumped all day for you because that's part of your goals. You want to get bigger, and that's very helpful.
Right.
And you told Bobby something today. I tuned in for a little bit of that podcast. Was you said you gained 30 pounds in a month?
Yeah, whenever I first started in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say I had an experience with that because I was also doing like the 5 meals a day. Also, I gained 30 pounds in 3 months, not 1 month. But still, an entire physique overhaul in 3 months, which people think is impossible, and it wasn't fat either. So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, because like when most people don't know this, but I played tennis in high school. So I went from basically being, a pretty stout football player till the next year I decided I was going to play tennis. I ended up losing a lot of weight, but at that time, if I were to go back and essentially say like I was basically like, man, anorexic in a sense, man. Like I had wanted to get smaller and stay skinnier, so I was forcing my weight to stay down.
Yeah,
I was like counting calories and counting carbs and and just making sure that I stayed within like 150, 160 pounds. So it was like, but keep in mind, as a freshman, bro, I was 210 pounds as a freshman, and I wasn't
such
fat.
a funny problem, man. Like everybody's always wanting the other side of it,
Right. So I was strong, and I was relatively thick, and not in a bad way. And while I was playing football, and then when I played tennis, because I was at that point, my goal wasn't to be bigger anymore, right? It was just to be quick and agile. And it worked, man. Like I brought my 40 time down to 4.7, dude. I was fucking fast. So, and my cardiovascular was like just on a whole nother level.
Your endurance.
My endurance. I would literally be able to sprint, get into a dead sprint, and then bring it back down to a jog without stopping in the middle of a run and run for like 8-10 miles a day. Like it was nothing.
Wow.
I mean, it was like I was on a whole nother level physically, man. But yeah, so like after that, that's whenever I decided to basically start doing bodybuilding. I injured my shoulder and I needed something to do. So I was like, I'm gonna get into the weights again and start rehabbing and whatnot. And yeah, man. So that was pretty much it. And literally, bro, I got on muscle milk and I was eating tuna and chicken, like fucking 5 times a day. And with rice, I remember exactly what I was doing. So I was eating rice like 3 meals a day, and then oatmeal for breakfast with eggs. I would do like 4 whole eggs, dude. I would just boil them and then chop them in my oats.
Yeah.
I would do weird shit, dude. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
That's gross.
Bro, it's actually good, man.
Yeah.
I do oats now, and then I'll fry, like I'll do sunny side up eggs, and I'll just toss them in my oats, dude, and break the yolk in there. It tastes amazing. It's weird,
like a
but
Rich
it's good.
Piana style egg.
Yeah.
Egg deal.
When you're bodybuilders, man, you just do all kinds of crazy shit.
You just get it in. And I know the thing with oatmeal is I've always had bad digestion with oatmeal. It just never agreed with me. And especially the toppings. And I think spice is another secret killer of digestion. People don't realize that the little spices that you trickle on there, the peppers and all this little stuff, that shit gives you IBS.
Oh, yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Oh, bro. Put cayenne in there too much, dude, you're on fire.
Yeah, you're done. And it also creates a lot of mucus, too. I remember in Hawaii when I first got there, I was just trying everything. I thought it was like, oh, everything's local. It's all organic. Yeah. So I go and I get this like locally made lilikoi, which is like a sweet fruit with the local Hawaiian peppers in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it had like pineapple, right? These 3 ingredients. So it was spicy and it was sweet. Bro, like I drank that thing and I had phlegm in my throat. I was spitting it out as I was walking around the city for like 20 minutes. Like people don't understand that if you're getting mucus from what you're eating, like that's going to be all the way through the system. That's my opinion. That's my experience with it.
I agree.
If it's causing you mucus in your throat, it's going to be causing you mucus in your asshole. All right. Just so you know. Everybody.
Oh, it's true, man. But also mucus, use Dr. Seber here. Mucus is basically a sign of inflammation. So if you have inflammation, that's what's essentially causing disease.
I agree. I do agree with that. Because you're gonna have to fix that problem, and then we know that the cholesterol likes to come and patch up the holes, but not in the cleanest way every time. It's doing what it needs to do, but there's no other way. You mentioned intermittent fasting as a protocol that you enjoy doing on your own when you're not trying to get the absolute maximum out of your body. But when it comes to the performance, the absolute max performance, I think that's what people like to point at intermittent fasting. They look at the human growth hormone chart, 2,000% boost if I go 20 hours. Okay, but does that even matter? Because eating all day long and getting your insulin pumped up is probably going to be way more anabolic and way more gains than doing that. So what's your take on all that stuff?
Well, so you can get your growth hormone to basically become more elevated through it, but it's just not, because here's the thing. Growth does not equal more mass. Like growth hormone there's nothing basically to it that is going to allow you to gain more muscle. Now, of course, increase in like testosterone, these other things would, which is why, like, to be honest, growth hormone is quite, how do I say, it's a little bit overrated in a sense in my opinion, for bodybuilding purposes. Now, because I've noticed with certain sports, like in baseball and whatnot, like they would use it for essentially recovery purposes.
Recovery, like healing.
Yes. Then I think that there would. But even then, when you sleep at night, that's when your growth hormone basically maximizes. So, typically when someone would use it and for a performance enhancing kind of protocol, they would use it in the morning. So it's essentially you're getting a morning dose and then you're getting an evening dose naturally from your sleep. But yeah, I just don't see how, even if you did, there wouldn't really be a benefit whatsoever. At least not for what I see really working. Okay.
This is kind of another technical bodybuilding question. This is actually something that I want to know for myself.
Yeah, man.
Like from the experts, and hopefully you guys are going to get little tidbits of like how to manipulate these characteristics in yourself. So when we're talking about fat loss, and we're getting down to the last little bits, right? Not the 300-pound guy who's trying to get down to 200 pounds. Talking about like the guy who's already 10, 12%, and he wants to get rid of that last little chunk around that belly button area. What's that guy got to do? Like low intensity, steady state. Like, how do you feel about these protocols? Is there a fasting thing? Just keep cutting. What do you recommend?
There's going to be different ways of going about this, right? So just depending on what he's been doing to be like over that specific time period, then we can take a look at which ways to manipulate it. So
like to switch it up.
Right. So one thing could be, maybe maybe like change the calories in a sense. Yeah. So whether that be through extra activity, so adding in a bit more cardio, or a little bit more intensity through the training, which would be another way. Because this is when I guess you can say calories in, calories out do basically matter a bit.
Yeah.
Because you can actually you can track your macros and essentially kind of figure what's going on, each and every day. Someone says T3, caffeine, and ephedrine. Yeah, of course it can work. But if we're looking at on a more like natural approach, then I would increase the cardio some, because that doesn't hurt to have a little bit more activities, especially like you said, you're relatively
like this is what I showed you yesterday. I'm trying to like that's what I got left.
Right.
Like
so
that's it.
Okay. So if I'm helping you, what is your current diet right now?
Right now, I'm eating 2 meals a day. I'm doing my workouts fasted. I'm doing steady state, just walking around the neighborhood for 30 minutes a day, fasted after the workout. Then I eat lunch. I do 2 meals. Typically, it's about a pound of meat each meal with about 2 cups of milk each meal, around 2,500 calories or so.
So you're using milk for your carb sources, basically.
Yeah.
So would you be opposed to cutting the milk out?
No, and I do know that I will lose weight if I do that, but I also will lose performance as well. I've noticed if I just eat like water and two pounds of meat a day, I would probably lose a little bit of power as well.
I would maybe add some different carb sources in. So maybe do a little bit of fruit, or maybe even some rice.
I do that every 2-3 days usually, or every other day.
So like you can cycle between that. So let's say like you do, since you're doing pretty much carnivore, you cut all that and then you go carbless for a few days, and then you would do the carbs for a few days. And then, if you're doing, you said 30 minutes of cardio, is it one time a day?
Yep, after my workout. And then if it's a non-workout day, I do an hour of walking.
Yeah, so then just bump that up to 45 minutes, right? Okay. And since it's low intensity, steady state, you still want to be able to keep your heart rate up, to maybe like 120, at the minimum.
Because it's just you're getting more value out of it. Is that why?
Personally, I feel like it just works better. All right. Because if you're going low carbs, then HIIT to me is retarded. Mm-hmm. It's not gonna be something sustainable, long term. Because you can push your cardio. Again, if you're basically not doing much throughout the day, sitting on your ass, like you can push your walking a little bit, mm-hmm. Because like I can say the difference for me now, right? Where here in Dallas, I don't do much walking around. When I was in Thailand, I was literally averaging 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day. Now, while I'm here, I have to fucking go out of my way to try to get that, so it's a bit different, so I know that if I want to, I can increase that cardio and it won't necessarily hurt me as far as like from a muscular standpoint.
Okay.
And same thing with you.
So it'll just be fat loss, you're saying?
Yeah,
mainly.
Like, bro, if you're consuming enough protein to be able to maintain your physique, your body's not going to cut into that. Okay. Like the way things work, so your body will go through the glycogen, and then the next is going to be fat. Last is protein. Okay. Like you have to basically put yourself in rhabdo for your body to start diving into those protein stores.
Even when how do you feel about, let's say what I just told you, but that 30 minutes instead I'm doing, well, let's say I'm running for the 30-minute cardio.
Okay.
Do you think that would put my heart rate too high to where I would be burning gluconeogenesis at that point, where I would be taking some muscle stores?
Not as nah.
Because I feel like I'm pretty fat adapted.
Yeah, I doubt it. Honestly, I doubt it, bro. Like it's gonna be tough here because once you get really lean, then your body can start tapping into the protein. But if you're consuming enough protein, then it's just not gonna happen.
All right. So I guess see, the reason I keep the milk on right now, and the reason why I've kicked up, because the walking is new for me. I've only been doing this for about a week, and I've been noticing significant results because obviously there's a bit of a caloric deficit going on that wasn't happening before.
Right.
But what's interesting about it is that my overall appetite has not increased because I'm doing low intensity cardio during the fasted state. That's at least my theory right now. So it's nice because I don't have to feel like I'm cutting. I just go for a walk and it's freaking nice. And, I want to do that anyway. So I'm getting a tan, it's all good. Mm-hmm. And the results are just like steamrolling in. Like even that little bit of that I pinched right there. I mean, that was like double that like even a week ago.
Nice. So you're making I mean, if the results are coming steady, man, then there's really nothing much to change.
They're slow but steady.
Yeah, and that's what you want because it's nothing too excessive. Like for me, I'm gonna have to fucking do a pretty harsh cut.
Why?
Just because I don't have it, like for the amount of body fat that I have right now, like it's gonna take me putting in some work. Like
right
you're
now,
dude,
suffer a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether that means I'm gonna be suffering now or I'm gonna be suffering at some point.
Yeah. What's your body fat at right now? To get you to that point where you're like, fuck, I gotta really like.
If I were to fucking like actually measure myself, man, I'd probably be about around 15-16% right now.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I have quite a bit of inflammation too. My cheeks are a little full. So, I mean, I know that, when my face is full, I know that I have some fat to lose. Got you.
Well, because 15, 16 is probably like pretty high for you, you would say, right?
Yeah.
So like, you're not going to suffer in the beginning. You're going to suffer once you get into like what I consider like contest prep bodybuilding mode, where you're talking like sub 8% or sub 10%.
Correct.
That's where no matter what you're doing, you're suffering. It doesn't matter, unless you're some super genetic freak. You're gonna have to pay the price.
Yeah, even then, man. Even whenever I was doing the vegan thing and I was eating mainly carbs for my nutrition, like I felt, cognitively, like I felt a little bit better, but it didn't matter. Like as my weight got down and my body fat levels were low, dude. Like, bro, I felt like I was retarded some days, man. Like I couldn't think. So it definitely kicks in, man. Know that your body fat is getting hella low is when you like you'll start to feel it. Yeah, you'll definitely start to feel it mentally.
And I think that's interesting too because I think it's mainly a salt thing. Like you said, you're already aware of electrolytes.
100%.
And I noticed that when I was doing OMAD, I'm already pretty lean. Like I don't know what I'm at right now, but it's like around 12, maybe even less. But we're talking OMAD, I've got OMAD with 0 carb. So it's like, there's no electrolytes in my body whatsoever. There's nothing stored in the fat. There's nothing stored in the muscle. I'm not getting any carbs coming in. It's like, there's no liquid in my body really to pull that from. So yeah, doing OMAD, I was getting a little like lightheaded towards that last hour of the day. So I had to be sipping on salt water all day and I would feel a lot better. And I've gotten criticism in my comments. Oh yeah, that's called starvation, bro. Blah blah. It's like you guys just don't even understand how the vegans are so far behind on nutrition and like just understanding of the mechanisms of all this stuff that it's kind of elementary at this point, But
yeah, I mean the thing is, if you're trying to cut into body fat stores, you have to essentially starve your body a bit.
You have to. You built them up, you got to burn them.
It's that's what I love a lot about snake diet. Cole. Because. Go ahead.
What do you? Well, go for it. I have a specific question about him in particular. I like him though, by the way.
Yeah, the reason why I love his approach is because it's absolutely true. I did 72-hour fast, and like the crazy thing is I was still vegan at the time, but I was I got pretty decent amount out of myself, and that's when you begin to realize how much of a role the electrolytes do play, as opposed to just food in general.
Yes. Yeah, they control more so of like your cognitive feeling. At least if you're lacking them, like if you're lacking those, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it quickly. It's almost like being drunk or hungover or something like that. Like you're just not there.
Right. Here's the other thing too, man. I was gonna say is that with you, like maybe if you pull some of the milk out, maybe increase some of the meat consumption, you're getting more protein in that way. And so you're not going to be pulling calories just from the protein at all. You would just be pulling those carbohydrates you would get out of the milk, maybe some of the fat. Because are you doing whole milk?
Yes.
Yeah. So and then you'd be pulling quite a bit of calories just in general.
Yeah. It's like 600 calories.
I wouldn't even touch the cardio, dude. You can do the same amount of cardio and just be able to, because you're going to do either or, So how I handle my clients is each week they'll send me a check-in, right? So we'll see exactly what's going on. We'll see whether or not, again, their body's adapted to the caloric intake. There's going to be some points where they're getting a bit too exhausted. Their body gets really, really fatigued because they're pushing really hard. And then that's whenever I'll give them like a refeed. So that will help with like their, just kind of getting that hunger sensation back, some of the leptin levels, and essentially kind of restore the glycogen stores again. And then we'll pull them back down, so whenever I do a carb load, I'll actually bring the protein down. So I'll bring the protein down, maybe cut it in half. And then that way, so it's like you just kind of do a shift in calories in a sense.
You said you bring the carbs down, you bump the carbs up and you bring the protein down.
Correct. Correct. And then you want the fat to be low.
Oh, so the fat's already low anyway.
Yeah. So like fats, it depends. Depends. Like fats are basically just like filler calories. In some of the programs. Yeah. So like if we're in a fat loss phase though, we're keeping it pretty low, 15, 20%.
Interesting. I mean, I guess my approach right now is obviously more of the carnivore approach where I'm doing low carb. I'm supplementing the energy calories from the fat and I'm getting in my protein for sure, and I'm able to perform at least to what is making gains. So like, I'm wondering how much is being left on the table doing that approach versus like, let's say go to lean cuts of meat, bump the carbs up, cut the fat real low. Like from a health perspective, from what I know, that seems like it's less than optimal, but from a performance perspective, perhaps that's gonna give you a little bit more performance boost.
It depends. Because if you're doing the fat adapted approach, then sure. But again, if you want to be able to cut more fat, then here's the thing: is like when you consume fat, it basically goes straight into your stores.
Yeah.
Right. Because it has no conversion. Right. So that's the thing is that that's where again if you look at some of the cold stuff, then he'll basically go about that route where it's leaner cuts of meat. And then, of course, when you're being able to go back into a more bulking phase, then you'll be able to increase your calories back up again. But I think what you're doing is fine, because you can cut into that. So like a client back whenever I had clients that would do keto, I would even do days of protein fats and then just protein veggies.
And that worked for him.
Right. And that's how you're able to basically cycle your calories.
Got it. Why do you think, this is no knock on Cole, he's strong as fuck, and I like his approach for longevity and health and just all around knowledge. Why do you think he's got this sort of like, why do you think he's kind of got like a belly to him, even though he's 6% body fat or whatever? Why does he look like the way he does?
That would have to do with the amount of volume that he consumes in one sitting.
You think he's just got like a little bit of a bloated gut because he's just pounding the single meal calories? I think so too.
It's all about food volume. And then, of course, if he's not training his transverse abdominis, basically is those inner abdominal muscles.
Yeah, that sucks it in like the vacuum.
Right. Exactly. If you're not doing that, then your body, it's like I was talking about with the whole Palumboism, right?
Yeah.
When you're consuming such a large freaking volume of food, your body will stay there. Your abdominals, especially if it's just sitting there and it's not moving. This is what happens when you eat a lot of fat, right? In one sitting, it digests so slow. So it's just going to sit there. And then, of course, over time, if you continue to put your body in that sort of position, more or less, then it'll basically remember it.
So they're kind of stretching their guts out, similar to the high carb vegans. At the end of the day, they're just, especially if you're doing OMAD and you're trying to get in 3,000 calories in one sitting. Like I don't see another way to do it other than like overfilling that thing and getting a little bit of that puffy gut.
Right. So for him, he would basically just have to work on that vacuum. And I guarantee you, if he worked on his vacuum and did abdominal work, further transfer of dominance, then it would essentially go away.
You're familiar? Sorry?
I was going to say, you see a lot of these bodybuilders that have essentially been able to reverse their bubble guts, and over like the last couple of years.
Interesting. That's cool. That's good to know. I like that. Yeah. You're familiar with old school bodybuilding channel Marco, right?
Louis Marco.
Louis Marco.
He's basically turned into a red pill channel.
Yeah, true. Yeah, up in Canada, right?
Yeah.
He's always talking about that stuff. Like, so he's got a famous segment that he does, which is basically I hope, basically bodybuilders dying early. You know, you've seen those videos from him, right?
Yes.
Like, what do you think is, because a lot of the vegan side is pointing towards the high meat consumption, the diet, etc. And I'm not saying that's not incorrect, but like, what's your take on that? Like, being so close to the scene.
Because here's the thing, then, is that even though you're lean and you have low body fat, well, see, even most of them in the off season, then they're getting pretty fucking fat. So you're gonna see like only a handful of them stay relatively lean. But even in that case, your BMI is still elevated, right? So it's just like, even though you're not fat, you're still obese in a sense. You're just obese with a ton of muscle. You know, I'm not afraid to admit this. So here's the thing: is that okay? You have your heart is essentially being strained with no matter what kind of weight that you're holding on to, right? So the more muscle you have, that's actually even harder on the heart. So a lot of times, this is what's happening, man, is that they're just, their bodies are just being strained like continuously with being too big. And the ones that are dying off earliest are the ones that just maintain elevated level of weight over an extended period of time.
That makes sense to me. And
another thing, though,
perspective.
Yeah, another thing is, man, is of course the supplements that are involved too. So some of the gear, so if you couple that with the high meat consumption, and again, most of the times these guys are not taking care of their bodies when they're not prepping, so they're eating really bad, and most of them get into fucking recreational drugs. They'll go off and drink tons of alcohol too. So it's like just bad habits in general. If they were really able to take care of themselves and be truly about the fitness lifestyle, then I really believe that a lot of this wouldn't happen like it is happening.
Like if they had a health focused approach, but then again, the health and the performance sometimes don't overlap. We got to just keep that. I mean, people are starting to understand that.
Agreed.
Agreed. Sometimes you got to do some wild things to get to that state, and it is what it is.
Yeah, someone mentioned kidneys as well. Kidneys is another thing, but it's because of, again, it's the couple with all of these. I really feel like it's the kidneys, lack of kidney function is really just the excessive use of the drugs for too long. So also diuretics. Diuretics is another issue that's involved in bodybuilding as well. That people just that's where a lot of the problems tend to exist.
Got it. Let's see. So at this point, we're an hour and a half in, and somebody wants me to ask you about John Venus. I mean, okay.
What about John Venus?
Yeah, what about John Venus?
So let me know what you think. Because to be honest, I like John. I actually think John is a really, really fucking good dude.
Same.
And I, he tends to be pretty open-minded, open-minded about nutrition. It's funny to see kind of like what's going on with basically his channels and stuff nowadays. Cause he started off that second channel to be vegan with John, and then it turned into John Venus podcast.
Right.
Right. And then he removed all the things that happened that had talked about veganism.
True.
So it's just been a really open-minded channel. He doesn't even post on the other channel anymore.
Right. You mean his main channel?
Yeah, his main channel.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
I haven't seen him post many videos. Like if he did, I think it might have been like maybe one or two eating videos. But he's done more work on that podcast channel than he has on the other channel.
Yeah.
But to be honest, man, I just think he's a really fucking good guy.
Yeah.
He's super, super chill. Like we've had small conversations on social media and stuff, but that was it. But I really have nothing to say about him.
Same.
I think if we just want to talk about like
he says gear or not.
No, I think he's natural.
Okay.
Here's the thing, man. I'm going to be 100% honest about these guys. because I have an eye for how people look when they use stuff. And not now. And yeah, he's totally not on anything because, to be honest, dude, John has some really, really good genetics, and if he were to be on gear, he would probably blow up like crazy.
Yeah, when I met John in 2016, we did an interview together actually when I just, before I went to Hawaii and everything, I was teeny tiny. I just came off the juice fast, raw, all that bullshit. So I was like 135 pounds, if that. And I'm standing next to him, and he was in the off season, and he was eating all kinds of junk food when he was in LA for the last few weeks. And yeah, I mean, he looked like a regular guy to me. Yeah, he's a big boy. Like he's got that big wide frame. He's thick front to back, but it's not something completely out of the ordinary, like whatsoever. I mean, you'd see him, if you saw him in real life at the beach, like especially when he's not in a cut where he's just like, bam, the muscles are popping. He could look like any other guy. And that's what, to me, he looks like. He looks like he's probably pretty natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because again, like I see how his physique has progressed since he's done the vegan thing. And I mean, it's not like these guys are making like stupid gains. That's why, like, same thing with Nimai, man. He looks average, dude. Like, he doesn't look that big. But it's like, could he have possibly used some stuff? I don't even think that he used anything that he was obviously injecting into the muscle, because if not, then he would really have ended up losing a lot more size afterward.
Did your phone blow up?
Yeah, I think so, man.
If you want to call me back, go for it. Otherwise, we can continue on here. That's no problem.
Yeah, I'm calling you back right now.
Cool.
Let's see if you get the notification. It should be going right now. But anyways, again, Nimai right now, clearly natural. He looks average, man. And again, if you go from height to weight ratio, him and I are the same height. And he weighs, like, right now, as he's bigger, he's 185. That's essentially what I look like. That's how much I weighed and what I look like as a natural. I was in shape at 18, 19 years old, around 185, 190 pounds.
It's unreal to me that you guys were that big, that young. And I've seen pictures of him in high school, and he had that same frame. He was jacked already in high school. So, like, yeah, maybe at some point he did use something to enhance to get that next level. But like you're saying, I mean, as of right now, I think he can look somebody in the face and say, "Are you on steroids?" And he's like, "I'm not on steroids," because I've seen him get a little defensive about it.
Right, because if he were to be on gear right now, dude, he'd be much bigger, man. Because these guys have good work ethic when it comes to training. Right. So their bodies will respond relatively well to the training. And that's what people don't understand is, like, if you have that certain base, like, he would basically just be a bigger version of his current self. I mean, that's the same thing with me, man. Like, I stayed off, after the show, dude, I stayed off for fucking 7 months, dude. And I only, like, but I'm like, again, I'm just different, bro. Like, I'm just a genetic, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely geared towards it, right? So, like, as long as I'm training, like, optimally and giving it my all and stuff, man, like, I'll maintain myself relatively well. Like, I only got down to lowest this time, man, 235. Of course, my body fat was different,
right?
But
the composition had changed just
right. And that's gonna change. It's gonna change.
Yeah, there's just no way I could maintain that. Like, for my body size, the largest I've ever been was after this 6-month dirty bulk, where I got up to 183 pounds. And other than that, I mean, dude, I was there for like a couple days, and I immediately started the cut, and within 3 months, I was back down to like 168. It was kind of a shitty cut. I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I maintained some of the size, but yeah, I looked way better, and I felt way better too. At 183, oh god, I was just like, oh, it was just like a slug.
Bro, you should just let me do your diet so I can get you fucking peeled, bro.
All right.
Like, seriously,
I like that. I like to get peeled.
Like, dude, if we can just get you fucking shredded, man, doing it your way, of course.
Yeah.
And it'll be easy. Cause, like, that's why, like, I have my friend that's kind of helped me right now, just because, like, dude, when you want to be your best, sometimes you got to take it out of your own hands a little bit and just just kind of listen. You know what I mean?
Follow the game plan.
Right. Because, like, a lot of times, like, I know you're like me. We'll be both really, really open to just trying new shit all the time. And it's like, you know, and that will kind of take away from being able to essentially get the most optimal results within the shortest period of time.
Unfortunately, that is true. I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, maybe less carbs right now, and then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, maybe I do need those carbs, and it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, man.
So let's. I'm kind of satisfied with what I've what I have here on the notes. If you've got anything that you want to throw down, let's do that, and then otherwise, let's just go to the chat and maybe answer some pressing questions that we see popping up there, and we can go like that.
Man, I really don't have much to add. I feel like we've definitely touched a lot. We can definitely get into the chats and see some of these questions. I did see a few things bumping around.
Pull out whatever you see, man. We'll just go back and forth.
So if you guys are open, I'm 100% open to answering any and all questions. Nothing is out of, whatever. I don't even know how to say that, but yeah, I don't care. It could be about gear. It could be about nutrition. It could be about training.
So this person says, does bulking and cutting apply to carnivore keto too, or do people have success just gaining muscle with little to no fat? I think that on any diet, I think the thing with carnivore keto is that it's so well adapted to our natural physiology in terms of satiation that it's very hard to overeat and gain that fat. It's not that you can't gain the fat, though. There's nothing magical about that aspect.
So you can gain fat if you're obviously overeating in calories. So on that aspect, you'd have to be eating a ton of fat, right? So if you're including a lot of butter, some of these added fats that are just quickly, you can basically just like load up on, then that would be the only way. But it's really hard because the way your body digests the protein, especially along with some extra fats, you're digesting this food really, really slow. So like red meat, for example, will usually take about 8 hours to really break down.
You're getting every single ounce of that calorie out of it, basically.
Right. So it would take, and I mean, could you get fat? Sure. But you definitely, if you're doing it strictly meat-based, man, it would be really fucking hard. You'd have to be adding a lot of extra additional fats to the diet in order for that to happen. Or if you add more carbs, right? Because once you start tapping into the carbs, then it's of course, you're out of basically being keto. And then you'll start running into problems. So what we have here.
Is there a reason to do heavy resistance when doing abs? Do you think what's your approach to gaining abs?
For abdominal training, I would definitely add resistance over time. So I would treat it just like any other muscle, right? So because it's when you get leaner, so most bodybuilders, they tend to not train abs. And their reason is because, I get lean, my abs show up. But the abdominal definition will eventually lack. It's just like anything else, right? If you for example, let's say calves. If you're not training calves, then you won't get better, right? So same thing with your abs. If you're training your core, because here's the thing, man, a lot of the times, a lot of the injuries that we begin to get over time is because of a weak core. So it's absolutely, I feel like it's really, really, really highly beneficial for you to train your midsection. And of course, add a little bit of resistance because again, you'll just adapt to it. And it's not like you're going to get a block of your waist from it. You'll just get a deeper etched midsection. You're going to
get those thick, the thick Kit Kat bars, the Snicker bars.
Who's that guy? Athlete X, right? Yeah. Jeff Cavalier.
Yeah.
Follow his channel, man. And he really, really, really breaks this stuff down. And I mean, he's the one that actually changed my mindset when it came to training the midsection. Because it just makes too much sense. And again, when you're leaner, you just have much more defined abs.
Somebody else asked, how many hours a week are you training?
For me personally, man, I'm training. It's hard for me to say hour-wise because I just go to the gym and I train 6 days a week. But each workout will range between 60 to 90 minutes. Sometimes I'll push a 2-hour workout. Usually that's legs because I'm resting a little bit longer.
So exhausting.
Right. For me personally, man, if I want to be able to blast out these workouts, I'm resting between 2.5 to 3 minutes between sets. That to me is the most beneficial. And then of course on some of the isolation movements and stuff, then I'll rest a little bit less because, the goal isn't to be able to pound as much weight, right? It's just more or less just to be able to kind of really get that pump.
What's your take on the new sort of wave of full body workouts being pushed. How do you feel about that?
I think it's great for just people, like normal people in general.
Yeah.
But I just, I'm not going to lie, man. I've been doing the quote unquote bro split for so long, and it's worked so well for me.
Yeah.
Just because like over time, man, like, it's just like any other thing, dude. It's like you focus on progressive overload. And for me, it works more beneficial for how I like to train and how I've adapted to my training. I know Cole Robinson, he does the full body workout. But it's like, dude, I don't know, man. Again, I feel like as long as your focus is on progressive overload, you will progress, you will get better. But I don't know, man. I like the old school style of being able to just really pound out a particular muscle group and just get the most out of it, and then come back that next session and be able to do it over again.
Here's my take on it. From my perspective, my body does typically have a harder time like stacking on muscle to begin with. So when I'm hitting the same muscles over and over and over, it seems like the overall growth is more. Like I can gain more doing it that way. But when I really want to talk about like getting some certain definition, and like you said, you get that real deep pump in that one muscle, I think that's all, like the fine tuning is always going to come from like the bro split approach, or at least a push pull.
Right. I'm not opposed to it, man. I do push pull legs. So like for a while, I even had this series that I was going, which I didn't get to finish because the stupid ass gym that I was training at, man, they wouldn't turn the music down for me. So it was hard for me to record the fucking videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. So I still have like some videos I need to do voiceovers for it. But I did a whole push pull leg sequence, and it was 6 day a week. But it was just, dude, the workouts were too long for me. And that's the thing I think that I feel about some of those like multiple body part splits.
Someone asked if I eat anything raw, yolks, meat, liver. No, I do no raw meats or animal foods. I just prefer cooking them. They taste better. I can eat more of it, and I need to eat more. That's my focus. What about you?
Yeah, I do raw egg yolks. I've done the raw meat with Bobby in Thailand.
Yeah.
So it actually wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be worse, but I don't. I prefer my steak to just be like medium rare. So like I'll eat steak, and that's about how I kind of push it, man. The whole raw thing was it was fun, but yeah, if it's not in like steak tartare, right, where it's basically produced in a fashion where it's essentially meant to be eaten that way,
right?
Then
it's kind of like the difference between sashimi grade salmon that you get at the restaurant versus like buying a block of salmon and then trying to pretend like that's the sashimi grade. It's not. No. You better grill that shit.
Exactly.
So this guy says, or girl, I can't. It's a Taylor. Do you think that you could have done a FODMAP diet, a low FODMAP diet, as a vegan and stayed vegan?
Quite possibly. See, here's the thing.
Sure.
If I was not prepping and wanting to still be a bodybuilder, I would have probably never ventured off and decided to eat meat again. I'm not going to lie. I would have figured out a way to do it because I know, just me, I have the intelligence behind nutritional. I just have that knowledge with nutrition that I would have known to do something. But since I'm very open-minded, and honestly, my curiosity got the best of me. And I'm glad that it did, because it allowed me to venture off and let go of the dogma and see whether or not how eating meat and animal foods would make a difference. And just like Drew is obviously is telling you guys, there is a huge difference when it comes to the food.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's immediate. And it's, like I said, sometimes I think back on the vegan days and I'm like, I'm really trying to dissect it from my memory. But like I said, I mean, my average day now smokes my average day as a vegan. There's no comparison in terms of like the way that I feel, my digestion. I can forget everything else and I could just say digestion. That's it. That's all I need to know that this works better for me now than it used to work for me. I have no complaints on digestion at all. Right.
The only time I ever had diarrhea again, honestly, was after eating a big salad. And that was in Thailand. So maybe it was because I was in Thailand, but Yeah, that was the only other time that I actually had a moment like that. But other than that, like my digestion has been fucking phenomenal. So it's just, dude, would you even want to?
No,
basically?
I wouldn't. And I offered Ted Carr yesterday. I said, hey, you are an ethical vegan. I will make you a deal. You do my diet for 30 days, and I will be a vegan for 30 days. Because at that point, you're not killing any more animals. We're just trading, right? You're eating the animals I would have eaten anyways. Of course, he didn't take the deal. But I was like, fuck, I'm almost glad he didn't take the deal because I don't want to eat vegan for 30 days. I would feel miserable, and I would vlog it or whatever I would have to do.
Right.
But it would be interesting, and I would do it my way. I would do it, the low fiber, high protein. Like I would do it the performance bodybuilder way, and hopefully it would be better for me than what I was doing before. And I've seen a bunch of people in the chat saying nuts hurt, almonds, nuts, nut butters are painful. 100%. Those were massive triggers for me.
Right.
But it was the only way I could actually eat enough goddamn calories, man.
It is. That avocado, but see, even some people don't like avocados.
Avocado stops the pipes too, man. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, low FODMAP diet. This is what I find interesting, like from the guys like Goji Man. They say they criticize the vegans who did restrictive diets that wanted to fix their digestion through restrictive dieting, right?
Right.
And then what they do is they go and then they give you a restricted diet called the low FODMAP diet to help fix your digestion. So we're already ahead of these guys when we're trying to fix this stuff ourselves.
It's stupid, man.
Yeah.
It's just the only way you can remain vegan is if you're doing it strictly for the animals. If you think about it from a health standpoint, man, you have to, like, dude, you go to the doctor, this is exactly what he's going to tell you to do. Plain and simple, but then of course they're going to say, why would you listen to a doctor?
Why would you go to a mainstream doctor?
Yeah, he has no knowledge, but they're going to, they at least know this, I guess the call went out.
Uh-oh. What? I see ya.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It just kind of cut out.
Well, I want to add to that while we're getting that going. This guy says, what do you mean by bad digestion? What are the symptoms of bad digestion for you? See, you mentioned diarrhea, but I didn't have diarrhea as a vegan. I almost never had diarrhea as a vegan. I had very, like, they were smooth, they were soft, and they were solid, but my bad digestion was from bloating and gas immediately. Like, I would eat banana smoothies and immediately have bloating and gas from the banana smoothies. And there's like this expanding and contracting going on in my lower gut, in my, like, around my belly button area, that's incredibly uncomfortable. It's actually noisy. You could actually hear it going on. We're talking for hours and hours and hours. And this is what just gives me a laugh from people like Freely who are like, so you got a little bit of gas. Deal with it. The animals are in more pain. It's like, no, you can't live a regular life when you've got little bombs going off in your stomach and you're sitting there like literally passing gas every 2 to 3 minutes, or less.
It's a retarded way of thinking, man.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's a huge problem, dude. If you have gas, man, like, imagine how painful that is.
Right.
And the fact that you are dealing with gas, that means that there is an issue going on within yourself. Period.
Very good point.
Because
very good point.
That is not a natural state to be gassy.
You wouldn't feel miserable, Drew. You can be a healthy vegan. Oh, that reminds me. I'm trying to get the call back too, by the way. But you mentioned if you weren't a bodybuilder, you would have stayed vegan for all the other reasons. Well, this is the thing: is that, and I kind of criticize the early vegans because they don't know what's coming to them yet.
Right.
I would have said the same thing around 2 years vegan. I would have said, okay, well, performance be damned. Because that's what I did. I basically cast away all my performance, and I said, well, at least I'm being really healthy. I got to figure out how to be healthy and get the performance back.
Right.
I figured the health was a little bit more of a priority, but the reality is that over 4 or 5 years, there was just no way I could even maintain the health because I knew the digestion was getting so bad that I couldn't realistically sustain any of that. So even from the health perspective, it had to fall out. And I don't know if that would happen to you for sure, but obviously we don't see the majority of vegans going a lifetime as a vegan. Most people are dropping out. I'd love to have the real stats on it, but those stats don't exist. We know, like, if I had to put a number to it, I'd say 50% of people are dropping out by the 5-year mark. Like, at least. And how many by the 10-year mark?
Man, I feel like it's more than that.
I feel like it's more than that. How many people go vegan for 6 months and are just like, never mind, didn't work?
So many people, man. Because I've had clients even that have hit me up. They want to do the vegan diet. They stay vegan for X amount of months, and then next thing you know, I check out their Instagram, dude. They're eating regular burgers.
Totally. They don't say nothing.
Like, nah, man. Like I had a few of them, but then also those were the same ones complaining about having gas problems and digestive issues and stuff. So I don't blame them. Again, now that I'm on this side of things, then obviously I understand their perspective. Where as a vegan, like, dude, if honest, and I'm going to keep it real, man, if it wasn't for me talking to Bobby and being in contact with Bobby, I probably would have never ventured off and tried something differently. But it was just like watching the egg video, number one, and then, just speaking to him on a daily basis, really at that point, up until I got to meet him. It was just like, because after I saw the egg video, that's when it made me like really, really, and I think this is where we actually started conversing back and forth in the chats, was on that video. Like it actually started to make me think about things more. Right. Because like, I'm like, he's talking about the brain fog and stuff. And I'm like, shit, dude, me and Ann have literally had conversations about this where I'd be like, because I'm not going to lie, man. Sometimes I'll smoke a little bit of weed, but I've never felt like this, where I couldn't fucking, and it was like when I was in Denmark, dude, I didn't smoke at all. So I was just like, I'm like, well, it can't be the weed, dude, because I don't have any. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I kept asking, I'm like, why is it that I cannot think? This is just insane.
The way that I described it was, I've always considered myself fairly sharp with the tongue, like just speaking.
Right.
And I got to a point towards the end where words were always feeling like they were at the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't remember them. Like I'd want to say something and I'm like, what is that word? And I just have to like choose another word or just move on. Right. It was very weird. It was a very weird sensation to like not have that recall of that deep memory of yours anymore. You know what I mean? And I didn't think that was even anything related to the diet. Like that didn't even cross my mind.
Oh, it doesn't ever cross your mind. It's like, again, when you're deep into the religion of veganism, then you can't really consider that the diet because again, the diet is the most optimal diet, right? At least that's what's being propagated. So it's like that's on your mind the entire. There's no way that this is the problem, man, because this is the most superior diet there is.
Yeah, it's got to be your fault that you're not doing. Like it's even ingrained in yourself. Like I'm fucking it up. Like what am I doing wrong?
Right. You want to accept my my call here?
Shit.
It's all good. But yeah, so that was actually the same mindset.
I'm calling back right now.
That I had.
Did it go? Oh, it did. Cool. I muted myself.
Cool. Let's see what's happening. But yeah, that was the same mindset that I had with myself, man, was that like, there's no way that this could be it because what I'm doing right now is the best way of eating, but then of course, when you open yourself up to seeing the other people, right? Let's try one more time. Press accept. There we go. All right. So when I started opening myself up to seeing, like, honestly, like, some of the videos on Svetia's channel, some of the videos on Tristan's channel, and then just talking again to Bobby and seeing your video that you did with Bobby months ago, just like I was able to like really put two and two together. And then again, just like talking to him, being there with him, it almost was like, all right, man. Because, you could just sit here and say, like, all right, I can try this for 30 days and see what happens. So
you weren't so deeply, injected with the Kool-Aid. Like, you said, okay, 30 days. Let's do it.
Exactly, man. So, and then, like, dude, after a few days, diarrhea's gone. Mental capacities are fully there again. You don't think about the brain fog, none of this shit. And then you're like, and then, of course, the performance in the gym was beginning to basically rise. Like, I mean, bro, it was literally like every workout, man, I'm getting better, and I can't say that anything else was, at play. There's no other different variables involved because nothing else has changed. So it had to be the diet, So yeah, man. And then of course after that, then you're like, there's no way I'm going back to being vegan, dude. I don't care. Even if you did follow a plant-based diet, you can never claim veganism because you just know that it's bullshit.
100%, man. And a vegan's gonna hear what you just said right there, because the veganism is bullshit, and they're gonna say, but it works for me so well. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it worked for you. It doesn't work for a huge majority of people. You just have to accept that. It blows your ethical argument out of the water. Just deal with it, guys. That's just the way that it is. We've already blown the lid on the situation. It doesn't matter what the fucking Harvard School of Dietetics says. Does not matter. It does not. There's enough people that have tried it, put the theory to test. Just because you've pushed your agenda into the mainstream and is now being accepted doesn't mean that when it's actually put to the test that it works for everybody. And we are learning that right now, because thanks to the trend of veganism 5 years ago that just took off, all these thousands of people have tried it. And like you said, regarding the things being the same, your training methodology being the same, I made sure to stay with the same training. I do the same damn calisthenics workout I was doing in Hawaii. And I am way more shredded now and finally putting on mass.
And the musculature, right?
The way, the composition is totally different. The way that the workouts feel is different.
So here's the same thing too with Anne, for example, my girlfriend. Again, we are very adamant as to what we're putting into our body. So nutritionally, macronutrient wise, we're keeping literally everything the same. The only difference we did with her diet was she started reintroducing more animal foods and stuff into the diet. I think she's added some red meats. She pretty much keeps chicken, eggs, and so forth in. But just with that switch with the food, again, her lean body mass has been going up. Mm-hmm. Her body fat has gone down. Her weight has essentially stayed relatively the same.
Yep.
So it's like your body composition will just literally change instantly, man. And then again, the performance in the gym. It's huge because, again, these are the only things that I'm able to base off of is what I do and I experience on my own. So If you have people that are essentially doing other forms of training and performance, and of course they can base off their experience.
Yeah, specifically what I felt when we're talking about that mind-muscle connection was when I got to the last final reps, those money reps,
right?
Where you want to grind that last couple reps. You got the power to do it. But as a vegan, I would hit that like 8th rep in the set, and then maybe I'm shooting for 12. But around that 8th rep, it's like you hit that wall, and you got no power left. Your body is like, nope, I'm not breaking through that wall because I can't rebuild this shit if you strain me too hard.
Zero, man.
Right.
And that was the one thing is that I was literally getting outlifted by people that had no business outlifting me, man.
Right.
And because I'm pretty strong, and then the fact that the fact that I'm just sitting here, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on, dude? And of course, it wasn't until I started incorporating, and this is when I actually started supplementing things again too, because I'm like, fuck, bro, something has to give. Again, I was still in the vegan mindset at that time, so I reintroduced BCAAs into my supplementation. I reintroduced creatine into my supplementation, and 2 things, fuck, dude, they made a huge difference for me whenever I was vegan, and I was like, wow, it really, really made me emphasize more on the fact that I was missing these particular amino acids. So the leucine, right? So you're not getting anywhere near the high amount of leucine that you need in order to create an anabolic environment through just a truly plant-based diet. With the increased amount of leucine that I was getting in daily, because I was actually adding in maybe 30 grams of BCAAs a day, just so I can get a higher intake. And I would do this with my meals. And then I would do 10 grams of creatine a day. So pre and post workout, 5 and 5. And it was like that made it a huge difference. But of course, is this necessary for you to do if you can just get it strictly through the diet? Absolutely not. And then of course, I pulled back from using it after I started incorporating the animal foods. And dude, the pump is different.
Yep, pump's different. You get that almost like painful pump.
Right. Oh, dude, I get stupid pumps now. That time, dude, I can think back and dude, I wasn't getting any pump.
Right.
And I'm just like,
it was just honestly, fatigue.
Swear to God, dude, and Bobby's in the chat right now. He can confirm this, man. I literally told him, I was like, fuck, bro, I'm thinking about just doing yoga, man. I don't even know if I want to work out anymore.
Oh, it's so good. That's what everybody turns to. Oh, I'm going to become a yogini.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, that is, talk about the most unathletic thing ever. I love when people talk about yoga's so hard, bro. You'll be sore for days. Like, bro, go train with Jonathan Irizarry and try and deadlift 400 plus pounds. You see what real power is, what lifting is. So somebody in the chat said Tim Sheaf went on the biggest morning show in England today and told them that veganism made him ill.
Wow. I can't wait to see this.
Same. Holy I need to see that.
Damn. So someone just asked me, Jonathan, do you remember the old product Thermadrin from Sports Pharma? Absolutely, man. That was back when ephedra was actually legal, you know. But nowadays, since people tend to overdo everything, yeah, so they turned it not legal. It's obviously, so it's, yeah, you can't get it. But it was one of the best products when it came to essentially thermogenics. Thermogenics nowadays absolutely suck. It's just basically caffeine in a pill. But yeah, the good days.
Yeah, I think we're tapped here, man. We've hit everybody up. We've covered so much good ground. I got everything out that I wanted to say. And how do you feel about calling it?
Yeah, we can call it here, man. The IFBB Yogi Pro. Yes, Bobby.
Make sure you plug your stuff, your channels and whatnot.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on you can just type in my name, Jonathan Irizarry, or JI Fitness. That'll also bring up my my channel in the search bar. Yeah, I mean, I haven't put up a video in like fucking 1 month now. It's been a minute. The last few weeks that I was in Thailand, man, I just said, you know what, dude, I'm staying away from YouTube for a bit. I'm just gonna watch y'all stuff and just not really focus so much on putting up content. But I'll get some videos up. Actually, I train with Reagan Grimes. He's an IFBB pro. So I have a couple videos up with him coming up this week.
Cool. Yeah, it's a fun time right now, I think. Kind of interesting.
Dude, I'm 100% in on this, doing these little live collabs with you guys, man. Because, bro, honestly, man, just the vegan agenda needs to end. The best way to do it is how we're doing it right now. You know, just like being able to just, you know, show people what's going on, man, and what real nutrition. Y'all have to think about real food.
All right. Before we fully sign out, I think that was your outro. Let's do a double bicep side by side on the screen.
Side by side.
Woo! We're out here. We're out here, baby. Oh. All right. Hey, Jonathan, you're a great guest, man. I'm glad to have finally met you and chat with you.
Yeah, man. So, I appreciate you, brother.
We'll do this again for sure.
Definitely, brother.
I'll see you. Goodbye.
Peace.
Okay, guys, we'll do my little outro here. I like to spend the last little couple minutes with y'all. Jonathan Irizarry, guys, that was really fun. I love talking to people who have reached a level of athletics that other people just can't even imagine, the things that they've had to do to get there. Obviously going above and beyond with anabolics and things like that he is open about. You're putting everything on the line to get to that size, to get to that performance. It's something that you're not going to see every day. And it's really special that we have people like that are willing to share with us and bring their experience. Again, we talk about experience, guys. Experience matters. If you were just some guy on the street, would you want to go learn how to bodybuild from somebody who read about it on the internet, who posted a study about it? Or would you want to go to somebody like Bobby or Jonathan who have been there and done that, who have the results, Please be honest with yourself. These vegans are hilarious, man. They want to trust the study of some scientist they don't know the name of. They don't know where this information came from. They're not getting the results themselves, and then they just stick with it because guess what? Ethics, right? Doesn't make any sense. Please. Experiment on yourself. Be honest with the results. That's what matters in the end. If we've got any final questions for me that I can... Food, not friends. Bobby, I think you're the best vegan troll in the chat right now, dude. You got it down. All right, guys. We're closing the show. Hence, thank you for coming. I appreciate the audience here. Let's see. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm gonna clip that little last part. That was for me. That was for me. The double flex, man. We had to do it, man. Not often you get to pose next to a IFBB monster. Mature roundtable. Tiana wants a roundtable. We're actually planning that. So you guys don't even know. We got stuff going on behind the scenes. We got stuff going on behind the scenes you guys don't even know about, man. Trust me. We're not one. We are many. We are a group. We have people. We have people, man. We're talking. We're organized. Believe that. Carnivore Resort in Hawaii would be dope. Bobby is insane. Bobby is the man. I freaking love Bobby. He cracks me up so much. The French video was out of control, man. So good. But yeah, we are going to have a round table with definitely at least me, Bobby, and Tristan from Primal Edge Health at a minimum. We're probably going to throw Elise or Kate in there as well. Sarah, I'm glad you enjoyed the talk. I'm glad everybody came through today. Today's a Monday. I don't know if you guys are at work or what you're up to, but so glad you can make it on a Monday. And I think I'm going to end the stream and get my workout in, guys. Again, thank you so much. If any of you want to contact me at Drew Morg on Instagram, the Instagram is growing like crazy. Please contact me. You can book appointments, or if you have quick questions that you want to ask me, hit me up on, Jonathan, we're going to get you in the group, by the way. Don't worry. We got you. Make sure to hit me up personally on Instagram, okay, guys? We'll do video chats, and what I like to do is 30 or 60-minute sessions with people. We start breaking stuff down. All right? And I'm going to take a breather for the rest of the week. No more chats till at least Friday. We'll see what materializes. We'll see what vegans want to pop through and chop it up, because things are changing so quick around here, man. Things are changing so quick. You got Goji Man's off the radar, and it's all good. All right. Goodbye, guys. Thanks again.